I pride myself on if I get a back block from the center with the guard pull and the tackle here, how like if the tackle's not aggressively hinging on me, I expect to make that play. If the tackle's throwing everything, that's the beauty of Nick Benito.
Welcome back to another episode of Tape Talk. Today we got one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League, Zack Allen, Denver Broncos legend. We got Boston College legend, Zack Allen, first team All-Pro this past year, second team All-Pro the year before. It's an absolute honor to have you in here. Mr. Zack Allen, you want to take a moment to introduce yourself for the non-ball knowers that don't know you?
Nah, thank you for having me. Yeah, no, just defensive tackle for the Denver Broncos. Spent my first 4 years with the Arizona Cardinals. Got drafted there in the third round, and then hit free agency and ended up in Denver. And yeah, you kind of said it best. It's been great being in Denver, and just happy to be here.
Play one. We're starting out just against the New York Giants. You're here aligned as the 3 technique. Now, pre-snap, they motion the tight end across. My question to you, how much are you focused on this type of motion? How much does it impact how you play this rep?
Yeah, so a little bit, I definitely kind of felt that motion. But on this play, I'm hitting we call it a spike technique. So I'm really going to the A gap. And they have a good play for it, with the down scheme on that. So that could really kind of wash your edge and everything like that. But the big thing there is as long as you play with hands, you're able to kind of pad back into that guard. And I still have the A, but, I'm able to kind of at least help him build a little bit of a wall and, not just let the whole formation get washed down. And you can see here, Till and Dre do a great job. So it worked out great.
So on this play, does the motion trigger this type of blitz, or was that already determined before the motion?
No, it's a huddle call. With the Giants this game, they really wanted to do kind of that 2 tight end wing look into the boundary, that slot formation. They had a lot of success on it early. They were able to pass out of it, run out of it, and kind of motion back. So I learned early in my career, obviously, when I was in Arizona, going against the 49ers, we would see Juice Check and Kittle, they would fly all over the place. And my first few years, that motion would really, because sometimes they'd motion one way and they'd run it the other, they'd follow the motion. It was kind of all over the place. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, you have an idea, but at the end of the day, you just got to kind of play things true. And, I think the NFL is a little bit of a copycat league. So you see across the board, that's kind of being, used by a lot of offenses.
Does your reaction to these motions change when you're playing outside the tackle or in a one technique?
100%. Yeah. So I think the closer you are to the ball, the more inside you are, the least the motion you kind of got to focus on. But when you're an outside guy, that motion will tell you so much. So like Till here, he sees that coming. And our outside linebackers, they do a great job of communicating, hey, this guy, maybe he's coming back, maybe he's not to the other guy. So Till, he sees that, and Nick probably gave him a call on that. And so Till's able to just kind of, meet him at the point of attack quick. Because if he's late on that, then the spacing gets all messed up. But he did a hell of a job, spilling it and really taking 2 and able to just let everybody rally to it.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, now we're going to move into play number 2. And what I want to understand is how have these type of condensed sets, you got somebody aligned like barely in the backfield, but in the C gap, or in this case, in between the tight ends, how does that change the run fits for you, especially with like how often teams have started running these type of looks?
Yeah, especially this look. It just looks like a bunch formation, but they're doing it out of 13 personnel. So, you look across the league, some teams, they might bump the whole front over and, put the nose to a 3 and then, put the 3 to a shade, or some teams kind of play it true. So it really depends on week to week. We have Huff as a safety here, and he's so violent and fast that, it's almost like you're adding like another linebacker to the box. So we're able to kind of hold our water and, play it true on both sides. But I think, just watching film across the league, especially going into this game, when you see that bunch formation, teams are just trying to create an extra gap with that insert, and they're running duo on a lot of these plays, so they're really trying to make it look like it's hidden downhill. And when you have James Cook, I mean, he's as good of a running back in the league as possible, and probably has the best jump cut in football. Duo is his type of play. So yeah, that's kind of what we were expecting here. So and we got it.
So when you say they add an extra gap, you have this player right here. So like normally you just have this gap, but then it creates this and this. What player is responsible for each side? Because like normally you have like each gap is accounted for. Is it like this? How does it work now that you have an extra gap involved?
Yeah, you drew it up right. Yeah, and again, it's tough because they got three tight ends in Buffalo. They do such a good job with their matchups. I mean, those three tight ends can go out for routes. So ideally, you want to keep your corner, as the farthest outside guy. So yeah, no, I mean, this is it's a really good concept. I think a lot of teams are kind of adding that insert. I know the Rams. I obviously going against them when I was in Arizona all those years, but it went the clip of Puka kind of running a route through the line of scrimmage. I mean, those insert plays are, they're a bitch to stop, for lack of a better term. And so that whole thing with the Puka thing, I mean, he's running that motion. He probably 2 or 3 times before that he's inserting and blocking. That's what makes the Rams so good was
Exactly.
their receivers are buying in the block. Same thing with the Niners. You're not getting the ball if you don't know how to block, and then it just opens up the entire offense.
Wow. Okay. So the other question for this play, your first punch is immediately to the tight end. Like your eyes don't go anywhere else. You're not even worrying about Deion Dawkins. Did you know this type of duo was coming? You mentioned they like to run duo out of it. Did you know Hawes was going to be the one assigned you on this play?
Probably, yeah, yeah. Thinking back on it, I probably was, thinking, high chance of duo, and know I'm going to get the double team on it. So, sometimes I like to switch it up where I'll play the double team true and just hit the tackle now. But sometimes, if I want to change up if I feel like that tight end's getting really aggressive on the down block, just kind of let the tackle, for lack of a better term, waste himself. But sometimes if you play this technique too much, Dion, he does a pretty good job still. But guys can climb, really, really fast, to the second level. So, anytime I make this kind of play into the tight end, I make sure I got to make the play on it.
Understood. All right. Let's move into play number 3. And this one, you do a great job using your eyes on this play. I've noticed throughout watching your tape, you use your eyes well all the time. Can you kind of explain to me how you use your eyes so well? Like right here, you got hands in the chest, you're looking in the backfield. How do you do that without exposing that chest, without allowing yourself to get driven back? I see a lot of defensive tackles get just driven out when they try and start looking in the backfield.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with your hands. I was really fortunate when I was in Arizona in the beginning of my career. I had a coach who was a former defensive lineman in the league for 12 years, Brenton Buckner. And that was the biggest thing he taught me was just hitting with extension. And I think that's kind of a lost art in today's game, is making sure you hit with straight arms. And when you're able to do that and create that separation, and, luckily I've been blessed with, long arms. But when you're able to get that separation on it, then it's just playing the game with your eyes. Sometimes you bait them in, look like you're looking in the A, they'll think, oh, he's out of his gap, and then you pop it out. So, the key in the run game, I think the biggest thing for, any defensive lineman out there is extension and violence. You got to run off the ball and hit, but you got to hit with extension. And then from there, you're going to win 99% of your downs. There's not a lot that's going to happen if you're doing that. And especially, on a fan block, like here, backs away, I'm playing the 95%. If they want to do the 5%, well, they'll do same side toss. You got it. I'm on the back side of that. So I know high chance I'm getting a fan block from the guard, and just able to just tee off on that.
Wait, what do you mean when you say 95.5%? What are you referring to?
So like this is a gun, it's a gun near set, right? So the back is to the tight end. So, if you just with the whole, not even just the Giants, but just across the board, if there's a run happening, that running back is going to be running to me because it's offset. That's why I think it's a lost art now with the way offenses are going. They want to go with the gun and be able to have all these passing attacks. I think the league's going back in the right direction, but when you have a quarterback under center or even in pistol, I mean it's a 50-50. Is it going left? Is it going right? It takes a lot of the guessing out. But when I see this, there's a couple of teams that live in same side. Kansas City does a good job of mixing in some same side runs. Philly was mixing in some same side toss on us.
I gotcha. Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
it's just the fact that he's aligned to the
just the
right. More
alignment.
than
Yeah,
likely, it's like an inside zone going to that side.
exactly, exactly.
Okay. So when you say he's going to fan block, is that kind of what I'm seeing? How he doesn't really like have a power step forward? He's
Yeah,
kind of
he's just turning
fields out.
towards me. Yeah, he's just trying to wall me off. And ideally this run is it's probably going A and winding back to the backside D gap. So on that, it's just when you knock it back and kind of take it away, then you're able to just go make the play.
Heck of a play. All right, now we're on to play number 4. This is the most perfect push pull you could ever imagine. Can you run me through kind of how you set up a push pull, how you bait that guard into leaning forward, and what goes into making a perfect push pull happen?
This was more. I played against. So the guard is Laken Tomlinson, and I played against him. A long time when he was with the Niners and I was with the Cardinals. And he is one of the most like aggressive and strong, really good lateral. Like he's the perfect West Coast guard. I got a lot of respect for him. And on this, just from years of playing him, he doesn't give his chest. He plays with great pad level. So I just knew, there's a high probability. I'm a 6'5" guy. I'm going to be higher on him. So I knew early in this game I want to get him guessing and kind of keep him out of where he can just sprint off the ball. So it was almost like a touch and go. I call it a touch and go. So literally, I'm just getting a quick punch on him so he could feel it, and then I just feel that little bit of lean. It's just
Yeah.
grab the back of the pad and but doing it all within my own gap.
Is there much explosion like right as you throw that first punch? Like, is there anything like going up through the hips there, or is it literally you're just tapping on and throwing?
I mean, I'm taking a full step. Like I'm still, because again, it's, the flavor of, kind of the past 2 years that we've been getting a lot of is teams love running open side counter, to me. Get that double team from get the double team from the tackle and the guard. And then, kind of just get two more bodies out there. So this year, compared to, my 2024, I played a really wide 3 technique because I was like, no one's running stretch over here. And then, whenever teams ran stretches, the easiest TFL was awesome. And then you mix
Yeah.
in, stunt into the A gap, get them lean. It was all this stuff. But then the Chargers were really kind of the first team that kind of showed, hey, we're going to throw this open side counter. And when you're that wide 3, it's not great on the double team. The guard can climb quick. The tackle's got a good angle on you just to kind of wash you down. So this year I really, wanted to focus on playing a tighter 3 technique and just kind of playing everything more true and being ready for, kind of any type of run. So I meant, less TFLs, but for the overall kind of structure of the defense and everything, it definitely worked out better. And it's why we, finished second in the league in rushing defense.
That's unselfish football right there. You're sacrificing your own TFLs for the team.
Yeah. Well, honestly, at this point, especially in my career, you just want to win, baby. That's all that matters.
I got you. I got you. That makes sense. All right. So now we move into a bull rush against the run. This isn't something you see all the time. You don't see somebody just drive back a guard right into where they're trying to hit the run. Can you explain how a little bit different the bull rush is against the run and why you don't work underneath here?
Yeah, so I just think this is kind of similar to that Giants play with the fan. It's just taken all. It's just everything should look the same. Everything should be, a really aggressive first step, trying to get at least 2 yards behind, in the backfield, and then here it's just it's just physical. Got the extension, was able to keep his arms off and just keep the feet going. And, kind of just threw him into the back on it. So this was more of just a mindset play. There's really not a lot of, what did I see here? What is this? It was just more,
Yeah.
I'm just going to tee off right now. And it worked out.
Now I see you have green light. I believe that is. It looks like blitzing the A gap. Do you have to be concerned at all about like a bounce back this way?
Definitely, yes. And yeah, that's there's one play this year. Maybe we'll get to it, but yeah, where sometimes you get too excited and you're trying to just you want to just make the play and you're cheating that A gap, and then yeah, a good back, they'll find holes in this league.
James
So
Cook.
it's definitely like we were kind of talking about. You want to you know play great, but you want to play within the scheme, and just let
Yeah.
the game come to you. And if you make every single tackle in your gap, you'll have a very long and successful career. I was told, early in my career. So, definitely just got to be consistent.
Is there anything you think would be useful for younger players to know about how to walk that line between being a dominant defensive tackle versus playing in the scheme, having to maintain those gaps?
It's the hard it's the hardest thing because it's don't let your wrong become a right. Like it's so hard, and honestly, there's no perfect answer. And that was what my first few years in the league. That was all I was kind of trying to figure out, and especially with JJ, JJ was it's just the more reps you get, you just get a feel for it, and you just learn to play ball. And luckily, kind of having JJ there, he was kind of the master of the backdoor swim. Especially from a 4-eye, he'd bait the tackle, get him lunging down, and then just
Yeah.
backdoor it and dive down across the line.
Like the
It's just
Max Crosby video.
yeah, Max is really good at. He's probably the best in the league right now at it. Yeah, I saw the video you showed when he just did it from a 7. But yeah,
Yeah.
I hate because it's like I feel like now I'm that older player that was talking to me, but it's like there's just no right answer. It's
Yeah.
a lot of it comes from just feel, but I think the thing too is like if you study opponents, like you'll be able to kind of tell little tips of like, oh, if this foot is up, he's doing this, like kind of stuff like that. That's the best starting point, is where if you know 100% like what the guy's doing from just like film study, or you hear them talking like in this league, ABC means you're on the backside of a run,
Yeah.
single, double, triple means you're on the front side, like stuff like that. If you're able to kind of start from the building blocks there, and then it's just repetitions, watching film. I hate to not give a more definitive
No, that's a
answer,
perfect
but
answer.
it's it's
It's
it's an
hard to
art.
tell.
It's more art than science. So
Totally makes sense. We're gonna get back into that ABC 1, 2, whatever it was with the direction of the run later. But I can't wait to get into that. Anyway, now we have one of the more impressive plays I thought this year. How you kind of dip around the center as he tries to block back on this one. Did you know that this guard was pulling here?
no. So this is kind of where I was talking about, like, get off is a D tackle's best friend and is mandatory. That kind of like frog stance, like read and react, defensive line play. I really I can't stand it. And because you're taking yourself out and making plays like this, like right
Yeah.
here. A lot of teams, I pride myself on, if I get a back block from the center with the guard pull and the tackle here, how like if the tackle's not aggressively hinging on me, I expect to make that play.
Yeah.
If the tackle's throwing everything, that's the beauty of Nick Benito. Nick will then make if the tackle's too far down, Nick's the fastest, edge in the league, then he makes it. So we don't get a lot of close side, gap scheme runs for this reason. So, but yeah, this is definitely, just everything should just be get off the ball as quick as possible. And then if you get onto the offensive lineman, I'll always tell young guys, the quicker you get onto the old lineman, it all looks the same. A stretch to like a down block looks the same as stretch away. Like it's going to put you in the right position. And then on stretch two, that's when you get to make your plays because either you're knocking it back 4 yards, setting the edge, making the play for a TFL, or forcing it to bubble, or say that guard is super aggressive and cuts you off. If you're getting off the rock, then that's where like kind of we were talking about taking a shot backdoor. Like that's where you could backdoor and just
Yeah,
get vertical. The guy won't have a chance to recover on you.
I gotcha.
So it's just I
So you
think
do some of those against the Bills.
sorry.
I saw you do some of those against the
Exactly.
Bills,
Like the
like when
Bills, they
they
were
would do the
running,
toss.
they're running toss, and Osiris, is taking this, super aggressive step on it. I'm just gonna, if I got to be sure. Look, I can't let my wrong become a right. Technically, I'm out of my gap, but I gotta get vertical and U-turn that thing to, and make sure it doesn't break. So
And you almost made the play on it a couple times.
yeah, yeah. Luckily, Alex, he's a hell of a player too, Singleton. So he was
Yeah.
able to kind of gap exchange quick. And that's the thing too. You just play with guys like, playing with Alex for now. This is going to be year 4 of playing with him. Like we just have a really good feel
Good chemistry.
of good chemistry. So he'll know like, look, make a decision quick. I'll make you right. It's kind of when you're pop out of your gap late. That's where the other team's band's playing. So.
Okay, I gotcha. So this is kind of back to those condensed looks. This time, instead of them running it out of 13, you get it out of 11, and you have the receiver. So real quick, how does that kind of change the defense in 13 versus 11?
Yeah, so 13, we're able to go with, bigger personnel. So back to that, when we were on that 13 personnel clip, we were in base, so we were able to have the extra, interior D lineman. Here we're in nickel, because they can easily spread us out, everything like that. So this is, just 4 down spacing up front. But like you said, bunch formation. So we're probably thinking duo again. And that's why I think you're seeing a lot of, blocking receivers in this league getting really nice paydays and
Yeah.
having success. I think Matt Collins, he did a hell of a job for the Patriots last year. As one of those guys, we got some really good blocking receivers, Pat Bryant, Court. They do a hell of a job with it.
Okay, so back to the run fits is let's just run through it one more time. I think the reps are kind of key with understanding this. So you slant to the inside here, then you get a blitz. Now is this blitz due to the motion?
No, so this blitz was was called straight up.
Okay, so then you go to the A,
Yeah.
you get this blitz here. He's here, and then before the motion, is it like that?
Yeah, so yeah, he would fit that inside. Yeah, he's
Okay.
basically tracking. He's just tracking. I think was it Cooks on this. Yeah, so he's
Yeah.
tracking Cooks. So if Cooks is there, then he'll take the gap, and then they kind of
Okay.
late get you out of it. And then
I'm
this is
asking every defensive person that I interview about these because they're increasing in usage, and I don't understand the run fits with them all that well, and I'm sure my audience doesn't either. So I want to cover those a lot.
Yeah, I
Now,
mean that's the thing. I mean, when you make it out of, we have a saying, we're full time, they're part time. Like it's kind of like that. Like if you're able to run the ball effectively in 11 personnel, I mean that's how the Rams won a Super Bowl. It was just strictly out of 11 personnel. They'd run it to Cooper Cup, they'd run it away. Like these blocking receivers, it's it really causes issues because you have DBs. That's why like J Mac or nickel is the best nickel in football because he's able to run and cover, but then he's not afraid to get in the box and make plays and hit, everything like that. Like a nickel like that is so invaluable. And that's, across the league, like the top defenses all had kind of that nickel player that was able to get into like, Seattle had number 3, hell of a player. Houston had Petrie, like a DB that's willing to tackle. I mean, it's such an asset in today's game. Everyone's trying to find that player.
that's awesome insight. I love that. You think that's gonna like increase the draft stock of somebody like a Caleb Downs or or maybe even Sonny Styles?
Oh, sure, 100. If you're able to run, hit, and cover, like especially in today's game, like there's no more of the 270-pound middle linebacker who's on, that's it's just the game is just too advanced now, and the athletes are too good. Like you have to be able to do it all, and yeah, definitely, I think you're gonna see like a kind of that Swiss Army knife where you could put them at nickel safety, if they're able to play in the box. I mean,
Yeah.
just like Kyle Hamilton. I mean, what he's able to do. I mean, how close he is to be able to be to the ball. It's incredible what these guys are able to do.
Yeah. I love that. All right, I appreciate the insight. Now we move on to play number 8, and this goes to what you were talking about, the pre-snap communication from the offense. Bills, I wanted to use them as the example. They communicate a ton. Connor McGovern always talking, David Edwards always talking, Josh Allen's always talking. How are you using what they're saying to your advantage, just on any given play, not necessarily this one?
Yeah, no, I think definitely I try to hear everything. And if I don't know it, then I won't use it. But, there's a good chance, everyone kind of has the same lingo. There's obviously like, the exception here. But this is definitely like a classic case because you can tell by how much I tighten down my stance and also kind of how quick I'm trying to get down. Is I definitely heard a B call on this. So I'm on the backside and they're saying, they're going to basically kind of like piggyback block or, that guard's going to try to, feed me to the tackle, let the tackle cut me out on the backside. So yeah, that definitely was what was happening here was I was just, I'm not going to let this tackle cut me out.
Understood. So when they say like A or B, what does that really mean for them?
So for them, when they're saying B, so they'd say B here because I'm a 3 technique because I'm in the B gap. So they're basically saying that this guard is just going to give, hand presence and kind of, everybody blocks it different. There's some teams where they'll just post and run, like they'll just post that hand and run, because they're usually that's like the true stretch teams. They just want to try to get the whole line moving side to side. I know Cleveland, when we played them a couple of years ago, the guard would actually like kind of like 2-hand place you to the tackle, but they're basically trying to get that tackle to cut off the 3 technique and create that gap.
Understood. Okay. That makes total sense. So then on the opposite side, when you're on the play side, you said it's like a 1, 2, or a 3.
Single, double, triple. A lot of teams will do that.
So they just say single or they say
They're
double
just
or they say
like we
triple?
play at Mile High. The noise is so loud, so they have to communicate up front a lot. So it's such an advantage. So some teams, yeah, they'll just yell. They'll straight up yell like A B B B B B, or if you're on the front side, A single single single. If you're a nose in the A gap, so.
Awesome. Okay, so another question, not necessarily just the Bills, but like Deion Dawkins, his split is always changing. He can widen it, he can tighten it. Other tackles kind of do it, not to the extent he does. But how do you use the split for your advantage?
Yeah, I think Dion, he definitely his split, tells a story, but I think he does a really good job that people don't see of playing with the depth of it. So, in pass rush, you'll watch tape all week and you'll think, oh my God, like he's, so far away from, the guard. We should run, a TE stunt and pass rush. But then you realize, oh, he's actually like 2 yards off the ball. So that's not like that depth isn't great for running that TE stunt. So he's a really smart player, and I think I've seen clips of him kind of talking about that split and everything like this. But here, I definitely probably heard a B call. You see the eyes are down. He's down. Usually he has that wider split to the front side. So this was, I'm going to cheat it down, and then it's kind of like the play earlier. Once you realize like, oh, this isn't hard, stretched, away from me. You got to pat it back and sit it down so you don't just get washed.
Understood. All right. Now we move on to play number 9. And on this play, this is a bunch look. So we gotta remember this bunch look before they motion this guy in. But then they motion him in. This is the only real like negative rep we're gonna look at. But I want to understand what do you think you could have done differently here? It's very similar to how you kind of move down to the A gap, similar to that one that we looked at with your eyes. But then in this case, you end up getting sealed. So what do you think you could have done differently here from a technique perspective?
Yeah, no, this was just me this is probably, this one makes me sick. But this is, it's definitely like we talked earlier. I think, cheating with the eyes, but also I think I lose it because I lose extension. Like with that right arm, kind of if you just run it just a little bit more, we kind of both have extension, and then right there, I lost the extension. So then that's where guys kind of get into trouble when they don't have that extension. You're not able to kind of play 2 gaps. So if I was
And then
able
he
to,
gets your chest.
and then he gets the chest. Yeah. So this was just strictly, bad eyes, just trying to, do too much. We're gapped out. Just, own your gap. If it falls to you, great. If not, tackle it for 2, 3 yards and hopefully you get the pass rush 2 downs.
Okay.
So this was just, yeah, that was just disgusting.
I got you. I didn't want to put many of those in
No,
there,
no,
but
no, no, no.
we
It's
had to
good.
cover one.
I got to keep them honest. I like it.
So then we get right back. This is like 3 plays later or something. You have that exact same bunch look. They come out again in the pistol look. Now, you obviously got beat by that run last time. This time, you come out as the strong side 3 technique. It's an entirely different front. How do you change it so fast? Like in the game, nobody's even coming off the field.
Yeah, so we were able this year to, we kind of we're able to create some, packages where we were able to have 5 down spacing versus 11 personnel. Um, and then sometimes we mix in 4. I've been with VJ for, going on 8 years now. And that's the beauty of him is he's just so multiple. And, for a lot of teams, that's intimidating because it's, oh, we want to just put in, we don't want to overwhelm people with how much stuff, but he's such a good teacher, which I think, people don't kind of talk about enough with coaches is, if you're a good teacher, what you can, give your guys and stuff like that, we're able to match versus kind of any formation or any kind of scheme, any kind of, personnel. So, we go into the game with a lot, but he does such a good job of preparing us for it in the off season and, in the week that we're able to handle it. Guys are still able to play fast. So, yeah, so we're just a nickel right here.
Logistically, though, how does that take place? So, like, you get the green dot guy, he gets the play call, but like obviously you don't know the formation until it happens. How does the defense know now, like just 3 plays later, to entirely switch the front against this look?
That's the beauty of VJ. I mean, he's that good. I mean, he's dialed in, and I mean, I've had a front row seat to it, and also credit too. We got some really smart guys. Alex. We had Dre, Huff, that are able to kind of see these things and call things out, and a lot goes into preparing on formation stuff like that, and this was a tough week. Washington. I mean, they had. Anthony Lynn was kind of running the run game there. I mean, they did a lot of different stuff. I mean, they did a lot, and the fact that we're able to kind of stand up pretty well against it, is a real testament to our coaching staff and the guys we got in that back end that kind of set us right up front.
Awesome. Now we work into a tush push, and first things first, I'm asking all the interior linemen, how much do you hate the tush push?
Yeah, I mean it sucks, but it's I like it, banning it from the game. I think is a little soft. Like I don't know
Yeah.
whose ideas that was, but because not every team can do it. If it was so easy, then you'd see 32 teams doing tush push on any short yardage, but you don't. And, it's just really a lot of it's just down to leverage. I was in Arizona. JJ and I aren't the biggest D tackles. We stopped, I think, at 1 or 2 tush pushes back in 2022. So it really comes down to, just leverage and, it's old school football. I think this game, DJ and Roach stopped one too. So it's possible. It's just, it's hard.
It's hard. What are some of the ways that you've seen, or that maybe your systems, you've seen other systems try and stop the tush push?
Yeah, I think the interesting one I saw was obviously, I think it went viral, was Chris Jones just completely turning his body sideways.
Yeah.
I actually don't hate that. I forget, we played Philly this year, but we didn't have any tush pushes. We played somebody this year. I feel like we definitely were all kind of like, let's try it on this rep, see if it worked. And it wasn't a bad idea. So I think Chris might be onto something there. But yeah, no, at the end of the day, it's, when you have a 6'5", 200 and God knows how much he weighs, 50, 60-pound quarterback, it's, 4th and 1, 3rd and 1 is, you're probably favored.
Plus Deion Dawkins, David Edwards, and Connor McGovern.
Yeah, I think what would be interesting would be, because their running backs are allowed to push them, and I know on field goal we're not allowed to get really pushed by like the back end, the linebackers. Would be interesting if it was like I don't know the rule book per se, but if like, we just put like three giant defensive tackles and then have our linebackers pushing them, I think that could be pretty interesting. But I don't know.
Outside becomes
I was gonna say
horrible.
then you're gonna just get a flip or, or
Yeah.
a fake
It's
pass out.
unstoppable. It is unstoppable.
Yeah,
I think it's just the snap because the offense knows the count, the defense doesn't. That could be
exactly.
what. That might be it.
Yeah,
Anyway, now we move into some pass rush.
the
We
fun
don't have too
stuff.
many pass rush examples, but I want to understand on this one the bull rush in the pass versus the run, and then also just a general kind of overarching pass rush theme of the center slide. How does the center slide determine what you're doing, and how often do you know which way the center's sliding?
Yeah, so I'll start with the center slide because that kind of starts everything off. The center slide is, I think, one of the most underrated things that people don't talk about. That is, certain teams, it's a game plan thing. Certain teams where, they're going to the field. It's that's a big part of, I think, a lot of teams in the NFL, that's a big part of their study is if you know where the center's going, then everything kind of works off of that. And I think what made us such a special group, able to lead the league in sacks 2 straight years, break 2 franchise records, was how unselfish guys were with the center slide. Like you see Roach here, I mean, he realizes he has it and he goes straight to it. Like he's running into the double team. He accepts this is my hard down. There's nothing I can do about it. So, yeah, it really all starts from there. As to knowing it, some teams they have pretty high, what's it called? Probabilities that it's
Tendencies.
going a certain way, tendencies. Other teams, there's no rhyme or reason. So it's kind of, you just try to, you know, hope you have a good plan going into it or just adjust on the fly. So, but it definitely makes you respect, every one-on-one is, that's gold. You can't waste those opportunities. So it's, you definitely got to try to make your money on those.
What about the bull rush? How does it differ from that one rep we looked at where you bull rush against the run? What's the difference in these type of reps?
Yeah, so in the run, I'm just trying to get on the guy as quick as possible. That's like for me, kind of back to what we were saying, extension, eyes, feet, like just explode. Like that's just I'm just trying to get as violent and I'm only 288 pounds. I'm not one of these 320-pound D tackles. So for me, my superpower is explosion and quickness and get off. I'm still a strong guy, but it's using my superpower, using my strength. Where in the pass rush, the bull rush can be, you can disguise it. It can be used in so many different ways. There's some games where that's going to be my fastball, and there's some games where it's like, you know what, I don't want to bowl this guy. This guy's massive. I don't want to just be living in his chest all day. Like it depends week to week, and sometimes I'll switch my feet up. I know that's kind of, I'm a little bit unorthodox in that way. So, the bowl can kind of come everywhere, but I think the overarching theme is you want to live in that extension, and you want to be able to, work off. If you lose that extension on a bull rush, then these guards, especially now, a lot of them, they're kind of converting tackles to guards. They're just going to grab the back of your pads and you'll never be able to get off of it. So I think the big thing is if you're able to get that extension on the football field as a D lineman, you're going to be in a great spot no matter what.
Love it. Okay. Now, next pass rush, we have this example of like a shimmy, and I've seen you do it multiple times. This one's working against one of the best guards in football, Tyler Smith. This is a heck of a rep. Can you walk me through kind of how you use this shimmy, how you try and execute it?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, first off, Tyler, I have so much respect for him. I definitely, easily top 5, probably top 3 guard in football. And this is third quarter, I think. So, or fourth quarter. So the whole game, I kind of was setting up a little bit of power because I never played against him before. And then you realize early on he's got strong hand. Like when he grabs you, he grabs you. You do not want to sometimes there's certain guys where, you'll work off a bull or you'll, try to get close and then bail out. Like with him, it's I don't want him to like grab it. I need to try to keep my space. So on this was definitely one of those where I'm just working. I call it basketball and grass. Learned that term from like Malik Collins and BT Jordan, where I'm just trying to like it's almost like a point guard, and just try to make him uneasy with his feet a little bit, and then once I get into this rip position right here, as long as I can pull that rip out and turn the corner, that's definitely something I think that not enough guys kind of work on is just making sure you can still bend that corner as a three technique. It's not just for edge guys.
What are you doing with your left hand right here? Is that pulling down on him or is that ripping up through? Because like he's leaning so far forward.
I have his pad, so I grab the pad and try to pull him a little bit, so he could get that lean.
Okay, gotcha. Trying to provide high school D linemen on the ability to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is an interesting stunt. You don't see it too often. If you wouldn't mind sharing, not the code term, but what do you guys call this stunt?
Yeah, so we just call this like it's basically a TT stunt, but we just did it out of a load. A loaded front. So this is probably like a 3rd and 6. So rushing with John. John is definitely going to miss him this year, but he was such a violent picker. So we really like kind of doing stuff like this where I try to occupy the center, and then he would be able to kind of tee off on the center, pick, and then you create a 2-on-1 on that backside guard. We did not know they were going to block us 2 with 4 guys.
But that was my other question. I mean, you have 2 guys mugging and then they drop off. Obviously, you're not the coach. It would be better to ask him. But why would you mug and then run that stunt? Because to me, it's like you're asking for 4 guys to slide in there just to block the stunt.
Well, so we were just trying to get some motion on it, and then I think like trying to just get some juice, up the middle on it, and then that mug just holds that backside guard, just that like little half second on it. The center here, Jurgens, he kind of he set pretty deep on it. He sometimes centers they like to jump if they have like a quick guy at the shade. So he did a good job. He changed up himself. He did a hell of a job by, kind of mixing up his set. So the levels were a little bit different than what we normally thought we would have. And then this year, we got a lot more chip from the back on the inside than we've ever really seen. That was kind of a new one, which was a compliment to John and I, but it sucks.
It's because of you two?
I mean, so that and probably too, like, Saquon's probably tracking Alex, too. And that's the beauty of VJ. He makes it so easy for us up front where he'll get us a one-on-one, even if it's just for a little bit, where he'll, with just the positioning and, the scheme and everything like that, he'll be able to kind of manipulate, guys' eyes and stuff like that.
Sounds good. All right, so now we're on to our last play. This is the standard TT stunt. Can you walk me through the timing of this, how you get it perfect, what goes into a perfect TT stunt like is executed here?
This wasn't called. This was just strictly a natural. So this is me getting to the center slide, and John just took an inside move, and he saw that he wasn't going to win clean. So then he just decided, like, we had a really good chemistry. So he decided to pick, and I just saw him cross my face and just rap. So this was all that's just chemistry right there. That was not, that wasn't called at all.
So do different defensive linemen have like more freedom? Like, I feel like you have different pass rush lanes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then do you have certain guys, like, is Benito more free to leave his lanes than others? How does that work?
We go in, like if Nick wants, like I tell Nick, because Nick's such a good athlete and a freak, and we tell our outside guys, like, make as many inside moves as you want, like we'll make you right. But they're, A, they're so athletic, they just win outside or with power, and B, they're also in self. So like for us, like rushing forward, it's, we just really kind of all view the game the same way, where we want to condense the pocket as quick as possible and force them into one of us. And then if the guy, whoever has the one-on-ones, they gotta, we trust they're gonna win. So in this case, John, he has the one-on-one. He hits a good inside move. The guy makes a good recovery, but he just views it as I'm just gonna, instead of just like kind of wasting, or not wasting, but the 50-50 if am able to wheel it or not. He's just like, you know what, let's just blow it up. And, John and I just had a really special chemistry. And it was an absolute honor to play with John.
I'm upset he's gone.
I trust me, I'm upset too.
All right. Well, those are all of our plays. I appreciate you so much for taking the time to do this, dude. You're so insightful. It was awesome hearing all you had to say about defensive line.
No, of course. Thank you for having me. This was great, and no, I think it's awesome what you're doing. Just kind of putting it out there, the tape and everything, and I think there's a lot of young defensive and offensive linemen who are really fortunate to kind of have this resource, and I definitely wish I had it. Growing up, and they're able to learn, and hopefully it just kind of progresses the game forward, and we'll see in 5-10 years a lot better O-line and D-line play because of you. So,
Well, I hope so. I appreciate that. That's a great compliment. I couldn't have thought of a better compliment. So thank you.